All right, this is Paul Colligan here, and I'm testing out a couple things actually here inside of Hangouts. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to jump on this soon enough, but I don't know. I'm playing with some things, playing with a new form of camera switching, and something that let me go back and forth between multiple platforms, multiple screens. I want to see how that goes and reverse these things. But then I've also got some content for you. I have actually started to work on a new presentation that I think you'll enjoy called A Quick Podcast Outline, the only 3 points any podcast ever needs. So that's what we're going to be chatting about today. The outline for today's presentation is simple. It's what, so what, and now what? Because what, so what, now what is really all you need when you are doing a podcast. There's this idea in podcasting that we have to go out there and bare our soul to the world, and that we have to let everybody know everything about our own intimate lives and that kind of things. And that might be part of the game. And if you're storytelling, it's not necessarily wrong by any means, but it's not required. Just three things required to do a good podcast: what, so what, and now what. And when you follow these three things, you're going to be at a pretty easy place. So let's go back to the next slide, shall we? There we go. What isn't that complicated at all? What is kind of the basis of a lot of simple questions that we need to be asking ourselves. What is kind of, it starts with, what is this podcast about? Why should I be paying attention to you? What do you offer to me? That kind of thing. The first point in what if I know nothing? A lot of people do podcasts about a topic that they think the whole world knows everything about. And when you start with what, you got to start with what if they know nothing. I'm talking about podcasting here, and well, what if you as an audience don't know about podcasting? I need to speak to what that is. I have to answer what for people who have no idea even the words I'm talking about. So podcasting is on-demand radio, on-demand television, available through a number of platforms, of which iTunes and iOS and iPads and iPhones is a really good version of that. What if I know something is the next thing that you want to take a look at on these slides. And if you know something, then, well, gosh darn it, how does your topic relate to the higher topic at hand? Now, by the way, I can see one of you are inside of this live one, so I will take questions, and I realize I did this instantly. I didn't send out an email or anything like that, so I realize there won't be a bunch of you, but for those of you who are in here, go ahead and ask questions, and we will go ahead and answer that. So what if I know something? See, I'm giving you an outline for podcasting, and there's some of you who know what podcasting is. What if I know something? Okay, I know what podcasting is. What's my topic about? Well, what's the outline? How do you build a podcast? And you build a podcast with what if, and so what? The third thing is, what unique angle do you bring? There are a lot of people out there who believe that they have a lot to tell the world, who have a lot to offer everything. Well, what unique angle do you bring? Well, I've been podcasting for 10 years. I have 4 top-selling books about podcasting. I am making my living in the new media space. I have a lot of high-profile podcasting clients, popular podcasting speaker. At least I have something to offer, in this particular game, if you will. And then what makes your angle valuable? Well, here's the thing that makes my angle, at least for this one, valuable, is if you follow this outline for podcasting, you don't have to worry about the outline anymore. A lot of people stress, a lot of people freak out. What am I going to podcast about? And well, gosh darn it, this is an outline that makes it work for you. And it's pretty simple and it's pretty easy. And of course, we're doing this right now while testing out Hangouts and YouTube Live and all that stuff, having a good time here. A couple of you have joined us live, and thank you so much. So if you have any questions, go ahead and submit those questions. I will take those. And with that said and done, let's get to the next slide. So the first thing we did was what. So the second thing we do is so what. All right, I'm talking about podcasting. I've got an outline for podcasting. So what? Well, what does this mean to me is the first thing of so what. Well, if you've been trying to figure out how to put together your podcast, follow this format, and you've got a good way to go. Why does it matter? This is a complete outline that doesn't drop out anything, that gives you the ability to create the type of podcast that people are looking for. How does it affect the bigger picture? Well, if you give your audience this simple format of what, so what, now what, then, these podcasts stay true in the entity of the single podcast. They'll have a reason to subscribe. They'll have a reason to stay with you, listen to you, and what you have to say, and it will be an interesting side. What happens if I ignore? In the grand scheme of things, go ahead and ignore me. You're going to do fine. A lot of people ignore me, and but if you ignore, there's certainly the potential that you're going to be spending some time and some effort and some spinning cycles trying to get a format for your podcast that you don't necessarily have to worry about at all, because it's really just not that complicated, for you to take a look at. And then finally, what happens if I implement? Well, if you implement this simple format for producing a podcast, you're going to find yourself in a situation where, well, gosh darn it, you know what to do now. You got a simple outline. You can sketch out in a mind map or on the back of a napkin or back in an envelope, or even in Notepad or stickies if you're on the Mac. You can start producing your podcast content very, very quickly, very, very easily with this format. So that's what, and that's so what. Thanks so much. A couple of you have joined us live. If you've got any questions, go ahead and put them inside the Google Hangouts interface. I appreciate those who have joined me here on this quick experiment. We're having some fun here. So now what? This is the part of your podcast where you gave them the what, and you gave them the so what. So now they've got this idea, they've been introduced to the concept, and now they have something to do with it. So now what? What do you do with this? Well, there are really two things that people can do with your content. Well, three things. Number one's ignore, but two action items that they can do with the podcast. And number one is they can run away from your content. They can either run away from you as a listener, but more importantly, run away from the threat that you have, shown them as possible. Like I spoke to people who are sweating heavily over what to do about a podcast, and gosh darn it, you don't have to do that anymore. You can run away from the uncertainty. You can run away from the question marks. You can run away from not knowing what you're doing. Of course, you can run towards certainty, and you can run towards having something to podcast about. You can run towards having the type of content that people are looking for. And then the last part of so what is, what can they do to take action, and how can you help them take action? The power of podcast is to affect change. And if you're looking for a reason for them to join your list or purchase your product or whatnot, you can tell a story of what you do, so what, why it matters, and now what, how they can connect with you. This formula is really basic, really easy, and it's something that I want you to think about. Now, in this particular case, it would be wrong for me, even though we're doing this live, and even though I'm doing this kind of two ways, A, as a piece of content, B, as a way to kind of just think through some things here and trying out Hangouts and whatnot. I've got a now what for you. And the now what is simple. The now what is, go ahead and pick up my book, How to Podcast 2015. I'm really thrilled with this book. I'm excited that it's out, and it's doing really well. At the time of this recording, just only 15 reviews, but all of them at Amazon are 5-star. I've never had that before. And I've got reviewers from people who are really appreciating it. You could pick it up at wherever fine books are sold. All the online bookstores, digital and paper, have it. You can also head out to grabthebook.com. At grabthebook.com, that will redirect you over to Amazon. So thank you so much for this little quick test of live and of switching, and hopefully I've given you some content, I've given you some action, and we will go from there. Let's switch over the slide here and take a look at the chat room and see if we've got anything. I've got to thank you so much, Paul. That was perfect. I appreciate that. I've got to thank you. Bought the book. Very cool. No real questions from the chat room, which you kind of expect when you do something this quickly. So thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you joining me for this quick chat. I will talk to you soon. Bye.